welcome back to my channel. If you'd like to win 60 minutes of one-on-one coaching with me, comment below "it is done" and I will be announcing a winner every week. Today we're going to be talking about how to detach from your desire in order to see it manifest. So what does detachment mean? How can you feel crystal clarity and peace that you're practicing detachment correctly? And what are the best practical tips and techniques to implement in your life so you can see results? So the object of your desire can manifest in your life. Well, it's a really tricky topic to talk about, so I don't blame you for having that question on your mind. I actually wrote up some notes and then shortly after writing them, took them down from beneath the camera I'm looking at because they were distracting me and confusing me about the topic that I'm supposed to be talking about with some sense. So it's a very subtle thing to talk about. What I will say is that everyone experiences attachment to their desire, meaning emotional turbulence with their desire. I have many times where one minute you're aligned and the next you're in fear, you're anxious, you're frustrated, you're needy, you're desperate for it, you're impatient, all of these things. And even with these sort of misaligned emotional frequencies and thoughts that I was having towards my desires, even with all of this imperfection, I experienced things manifest. So you can kind of settle back into your chair and know that you don't have to be perfectly detached to see something manifest. But of course, detachment, why do we even want that? It's because it gives us some semblance of peace of mind, clarity, flow, balance that makes the journey towards manifesting what it is we want so much more enjoyable and fulfilling. So that's what this video is going to hopefully give you. So firstly, I looked up a dictionary definition of what detachment meant, because I wasn't actually really sure how it would be phrased in sort of a common context. And what it was, forgotten now, a feeling of not being emotionally involved with something. And so I remember reading that, a feeling of not being emotionally involved with something, that being your desire. What does that really mean? Well, it's safe to say that the dictionary, whoever writes these definitions, more than likely they are coming from a dualistic paradigm of reality. That's a fancy word for saying from a place of separation and ego. Now, the ego, I sort of like calling it the inner child because I've since found that the ego is not something to be criticized or suppressed or seen as some kind of outcast, some kind of illusion in a negative sense. It serves a function, and it's a beautiful aspect of reality, a dimension of our beings that is to be healed, loved, integrated as we move towards transcendence. But we're all raised with an ego, right? A sense of a separate self. And because ultimately the ego is not our highest nature is oneness, the ego has inbuilt within it a certain tendency towards fear, towards feeling not whole and complete right now. And so what does that mean when it comes to detachment? Well, it means that when we have a desire, we are either swinging between the egoic pendulum of a fear of losing that desire or an alignment and sort of a connection alignment towards having our desire. So we swing on this pendulum or we go on this kind of hamster wheel of ego after what it is we want. And it feels great when we, from that place of separation ultimately, we are able to think positive thoughts. But then that quickly falls off track because something happens. You see some kind of disconfirming evidence, at least seemingly so. Or you simply are frustrated or anxious, or you get triggered by your desire or by something that gets in the way of your desire that triggers your ego and the traumas that it holds, and it pulls you into more of those negative emotional states. And so we yin and yang so much that eventually some genius thought there must be some kind of way to break out of this cycle, and hence the notion detachment was formed. Some point, I don't know when, but some point it was, obviously. But here's the really interesting thing is that if we acknowledge that that's a certain paradigm of reality, that sort of pendulum swinging in and out of desire and connection, and then fear and absence and lack. Detachment actually best functions, most effortlessly functions in a different paradigm of reality. One of non-duality, one of unity. So detachment actually means unity. Now we'll explore that in a second. But it's also helpful to not see it as two separate circles. So you're not in the paradigm of duality and ego when it comes to your desire and detaching from it. And then you're not, in a black and white sense, jumping over into non-duality and then seeing it from a place of unity and able to detach with true wholeness within you. They're not so separate, mutually exclusive fears. It's more of a grey scale. So this is about opening yourself up like a flower to embrace increasing degrees of unity, and then from that place, seeing how effortless detachment actually is. So let's just look at it though like it's a separate thing, like it's a destination, so to speak, that you can arrive at, a sense of true detachment from a non-dual perspective, from a spiritually awoken perspective, you might put it that way. So from that absolute perspective of who you truly are in relationship to your desire, detachment is impossible. Because detachment implies that you can actually be separate from anything. But say we look at, here's an object. Here's a lighter that I used to light some sage up there actually before. Now, barring the scientific, materialistic, very rational explanation of what this object is, if we look at this more from a spiritual lens and we zoom right in, we keep infinitely zooming within it, eventually we find that it's just groundless consciousness. This thing, it's pure energy, it's just pure vibrational frequency of consciousness at a certain density, right? That thing over here. Then it's going through my hand, which is another density or vibration of consciousness, into the voice and the sound vibrations that are another manifestation of a density of consciousness. And everything you'll find is grounded in the same substance, that being consciousness. And you are that. And so when it comes to detaching from your desire, how can you detach from something that you are ultimately sharing the same foundation with? It may appear like you're separate. It may appear like if you're manifesting a specific person, they're over there or they're in a different country or a job promotion, that office, that view, that income, that they're all objects. They all have a tangible consequence in this reality. And relatively speaking, they do, of course. That's the common way of viewing the world, that of duality, as we said. But if we really elevate ourselves up and give ourselves permission to tap into the truth of the essence of these things, we'll find that they are all one and the same consciousness. And so, by definition, you are already unified with everything in reality, every possible manifestation of the infinite consciousness you are, the source consciousness that's your essence. And your desire is one such manifestation therein, that infinite form you are. So you're already unified. So detachment equals unity. You can see it like that. And when we talk about being detached, it can kind of also carry this sense of callousness. Because it seems that if we come out of the pendulum swing of ego between desire in a relative sense of I need this, or lack, I don't have this, and fear of the consequences of that. If we come out of that, it seems like detachment means sort of just, at best, a sort of peaceful neutrality. But actually, detachment, when we look at it from this place of unity, of really digging deep into the true essence of who you are, actually it is filled with absolute peace and divine love and joy and excitement and inspiration. and fulfillment and wholeness and completion and clarity, knowingness in the here and now. That's what detachment really is like. And so it's like you awaken to the flavor of your true essence, and it's so delicious, it's so full and complete in and of itself, that detachment is the knowingness that you are everything. And from that knowingness that you are everything and that you have this infinite potential as the source consciousness, and in fact, the being you are is one spark of this source consciousness, one celebration of life in that sense. Your desire, the way you relate to that, is yet another celebration of who you are, of who you truly are. It's this effortless, spontaneous, joyful realization that you can experience that. Not that you necessarily need it, not that necessarily you have to have it, but because why the heck not? It's a beautiful celebration of the infinite possibilities and dimensions of your being as the one infinite creator of everything. Now, this is a threshold realization, as I spoke about. So it's not necessarily about clicking your fingers and then you become enlightened instantly to these truths. And instantly you realize the oneness that you share with that which you seek, and you start manifesting it from a place of true presence, basking in the glory of your own being. It's not like that. It's a gradual peeling away. It's a gradual process of just embracing perspectives and beliefs that start to open you up, that start to crack you open bit by bit, and that start to allow this blossoming to happen of your true essence into your experience. At least that's what's happened in my life. And then as you just trust within yourself that the love you will experience of your true essence, or even the very fact that love is all there is, if you let that penetrate into your heart, you can kind of just have that deep faith that in sort of smelling the fragrance of your own being, or so to speak, or tasting the own elixir of your eternal infinite self, in tasting that, detachment is natural. It's effortless. It's the most obvious thing. And so it makes things more simple in that ultimate sense of what it means to detach from desire in order to flow towards it, in order to activate it into your experience. They become more seamless if you just trust that that is actually the most fundamental thing that starts to happen as you awaken to your true self. But then how do we awaken to the true self? And if you're like me, maybe you're even scared of that notion. I remember I used to be. That used to scare me because it seems like, wait, if I awaken out of ego or the sense of a self, what happens to me? What happens to my desire? Why don't I just meditate facing a wall and not have any meaning to life? And why would I want anything? It'd be all pointless. Would I even want to celebrate myself? All of these things can come into your mind. But I can assure you it's nothing further from the truth. Some people, some beings, sure, they can just meditate and be quite self-sufficient. But if you're more of being more programmed to pursue excellence and actualize our potential and value status and all this stuff, all of that kind of stuff gets integrated into a unique expression that is you. And so you don't fundamentally change in that which you want. In fact, it becomes more clear, it becomes more joyful, it becomes more exciting and fun, and finally you can ease into the experience and actually enjoy every step along the way in that state of detachment, which is unity. So hopefully that can ease those fears themselves into whether this is true and whether you even want to kind of start tapping into this inner realm that is going to help you manifest what you want. I may do a Q&A on these type of questions or fears if you're interested in that, so leave me a comment. But nonetheless, if we go back to opening up to this dimension of life, to this dimension of detachment, what helps is to embrace some fundamental ideas about why unity is true, or if unity is true, what you would believe from that perspective, and also the purpose of detachment itself from that unity perspective. that perspective of unity consciousness. So let's tackle the latter first. So why do we want detachment? What is the purpose of it from this now clarified unity perspective? Well, it's the allowance of presence in one moment at a time, and filled within that presence without any distortions, without any blocks, without any fears or anxieties, in pure, unadulterated, pristine presence of your being and the love and the joy that's intimately in that presence of who you really are. It's about, in that presence, seamlessly activating the vibrational reality or the frequency of that which you desire. Whether that be a person, a relationship, a job, a career, an achievement, a financial situation, even a sense of spiritual attainment. All of that is some vibrational mixture of the consciousness that you are at certain frequencies. And tapping into that frequency blueprint in a frictionless state of presence is the most powerful way to actually draw in that frequency into your reality. That's the purpose of why you would want to come out of this pendulum of ego and come into the true self, where you can more and more, remember, in that threshold sense, deepen or ascend into this alignment, into this state of presence, in the state of unity, and then be able to more seamlessly, instantaneously, effortlessly, joyfully connect to that which you want. And then, because the universe is you, and it reflects the sincerity of and clarity of your vibration, the intentional beam which you admit to yourself, placing an order to yourself, to the higher mind that you are, makes it happen so much quicker, so much more effortlessly and instantly, so you actually get that which you seek so much faster, whilst being all the while feeling worthy, whole, and complete, at peace, in love with life, which you realize more and more is actually what you are. That's the benefit and purpose of this topic and manifesting in general. So I'm rambling on here. But how can we embrace that? How do we start to become the flower that blossoms into this truth? What are some beliefs that you can start telling yourself, that you can start embracing on a daily basis? Maybe as an affirmation routine in the morning of 5 minutes, looking at yourself in the mirror. Or maybe just saying it a couple of times during the week. Starting to soak in the frequencies of these thought forms till they crystallize into beliefs and start to shift you up into unity consciousness, and thus effortless detachment, alignment, and powerful manifesting of that which you want. So some beliefs include there is only infinite abundance, there is no such thing as lack. There are infinite parallel realities, very closely related to infinite abundance. But if you think about it, the infinite source consciousness that you are, the one infinite creator you are, it's like a big possibility field in which all these singular eternal now moments exist, one snapshot at a time. Here's one, here's one, here's one, here's one, here's one. All of them are parallel realities that simultaneously exist, formations of consciousness at different frequencies. And one of those appearances, one of those timelines, one of those snapshots out of the infinite abundance of them, one of those parallel realities is that which harbors your dream reality, your desire realized, activated, experienced right now. And so embracing the idea that there's infinite resources for you to tap into, infinite possibilities, opportunities, timelines to align with that which you want, and along with the infinite abundance of who you really are, starts to really undermine, or not undermine, but kind of kick the stool out from underneath the legs of the ego, which fears that it might not happen, or fears in lack, or fears the consequences of it not happening, etc. Because you can start to bask in these more abundant perspectives that are aligned with the truth of who you really are. And then on top of that, another perspective is there's only free will. Free will for me to select that which I want to create, and to even have free will to experience the truth of who I am. And then in experiencing that truth, to bask in that beauty and to feel truly detached, to feel true love. That's your free will as well. There is only infinite self-worth and infinite self-love. So you can embrace that. And this is more about whether you have the desire or not, whether it happens or not. No matter what, right now, for eternity, infinitely, there is only worthiness. There's only completion. There's only wholeness. Now we can realize this in greater and greater depth. All of these truths, in fact, in greater and greater depth. But just planting the seed of them, watering them day by day, will start to actually manifest a reality in which they start reflecting into your 3D world more and more. It becomes easy to believe. And you therefore gain even more momentum, more alignment, more good feelings, more true unity consciousness, and thus true detachment, more powerful manifesting. And then your desires can start coming true that much faster, that much more fulfillingly and satisfyingly. But it's bit by bit, and you don't need to be perfect, as I said. You can have an identification with the self and manifest things and control your mind and do all this remarkable stuff and amazing techniques that still work. For sure, they still work. But this is more about a permanent, deep-rooted solution to it that will be the most powerful ultimately and satisfyingly and stable because it comes off the hamster wheel of the ego and fear paradigm of separation. So sorry for that aside. Okay, so no doubt if you're like me in my journey, even a little bit right now, comprehending infinity, what does this mean? What's the source consciousness? All these questions can arise. Fears, doubts, even anxiety can arise. It's a whole lot of responsibility. I'm infinite source consciousness. What does that mean? How do I begin? I just wanted to manifest a simple thing. Why are you doing this to me? I had lots of those questions, and I totally understand. My heart goes out to you. This is really quite deep stuff, and if you've come along this far with me, I'm very, very impressed and proud of you, and it's deeply worthwhile and actually very simple and clear when you finally realize it, and very satisfyingly so. But these fears will arise, these limiting beliefs, these doubts, these anxieties, these patterns, egoic patterns of the past will play out because they've been habitual for so long. Meaning you'll hear a talk like this and you will have an increase in lightness, in love, in consciousness, in alignment with your true self. And it will feel possible, hopefully. You will feel like you are a creator, that you can activate what you want. It can be fun. It can be yours. You are enough. You'll get a glimpse of all this stuff, but then you'll think about your desire next day. Maybe it's this relationship you're manifesting with a person and they don't text you. All of a sudden, there's a trigger. You feel the negative emotion come up. All these thoughts come through your head, and you go back into that ego contraction of fear. That fears that it is not already unified with that thing and can't have that thing, or there's something could get in the way of that, or without that thing right now, it's impossible to be happy. It's just impossible. There's too much desire. There's all these rules, even positive stuff like I have too much love for this person to feel good, to truly feel enough without them. That's absurd. All these ideas that the ego will convince, which will basically boil down to, I need this thing, I fear that I won't have this thing, and if I don't have this thing, there's no way I can ever be happy. That kind of thing will pop back up, and it does for all of us from time to time. And that's okay. The most important thing is to realize that the ego and these patterns are actually serving a beautiful purpose on a grand scale as humanity awakens. So to come quickly back into alignment more with who you really are, truly, is to accept those patterns and to realize they're a manifestation of traumas, fears, pains, many deep-rooted from childhood and some even lingering from past lives. And that's okay. They can be healed. They can be loved. They can be integrated bit by bit, moment by moment, emotion by emotion, into infinite love, into connection, into truth, into knowing, into peace. And so when you are triggered, there are a couple of steps on how you can deal with these triggers so that you're moving yourself consistently in the direction of true detachment and true manifestation power. So firstly is to acknowledge, as I said, and accept the trigger. It will be thoughts that are bumbling around in your head, whatever they are, and it will be emotions, likely negative. And so you want to just accept that entire process right from the get-go, and to realize that if you're thinking these thoughts and identifying with them, and you're feeling these emotions and identifying with them, that's what ego is. In more or less, in a general sense, that's usually what ego is. And the ego is the inner child. It's an entity of sorts from a certain perspective. An entity seeking love, seeking reunification with itself. Literally like a child seeking its parents. And so you can start to, from this place of consciousness, see yourself as a loving parent that soothes and heals the inner child. How do you do this? You simply be with the emotion, because your beingness holds the vibration of infinite love and peace within it, because that's what you truly are. So whether you're aware of that or not, you can simply place your awareness, place your presence over the emotion and be there for it, and that's an act of love and healing. That healing, as that emotion burns through, the potential of that emotion burns through, the thoughts calm down, it starts to purify because the light of your loving consciousness has shone over it, and therefore you're more aware of it, and that inner child feels more loved. As it feels more loved, it feels more willing to integrate with the higher self and to surrender into the truth of true detachment. So that's beautiful, you do that. And then you can ask it, what do you need to heal? How may I serve you? Compliment it, you're a beautiful inner child. I love you so much unconditionally. I'm going to give you this voice. Here's my undivided attention. Be with it, feel that. And then you will get answers. You get all kinds of answers and you can follow up on those answers. Action steps. Insights. Really great stuff. Then you can also take some of the thoughts that you have found, some of the strong thoughts, and apply Byron Katie's The Work to them. I find that that's a really good step. And I will link a video which I already did on how to do this when you have doubts, fears, and limiting beliefs come up. And you can check that out and see that technique there. You can do it in your own time journaling. And then lastly is to accept that you don't need to bite off everything at once. You only bite off enough for you to chew. So if there's a firm belief in you that says, I need this desire right now and I can't be happy without it, maybe you can drop other beliefs around it, but you're not ready to drop that off. You're not ready to give up that perspective, that valid perspective from some point of view. That's okay too. Accept that. Accept that you want to believe that that's true. Accept that you are able to believe that that's true. Accept even the possibility that that is true for you, if that makes you feel better. Because rooted in that better feeling state is some connection to the truth of how things really are. So sometimes it's embracing the ego's pain, the ego's beliefs, the ego's perspectives, because at this point in your journey, that is all that you are ready for, or not in a patronizing way, ready for, all that you resonate with. That's a better way to put it, right? Or all valid. Our journeys are all valid. And then at a later time, perhaps some weeks later, perhaps even an hour later, you revisit that belief and there's a greater capacity of love that has dawned upon you, inexplicably sometimes. And it gives you this capacity to truly let go another chunk of this rule, of this parameter, of this limiting belief that restricts you or binds you to a desire, binds your worth to a desire. And you can then surrender and let that go, heal and love that aspect of the inner child that you've now able to, you've gained access to, and the healing will then take place, and you'll start to build momentum, and the healing turns into a sense of a stable, unshakable love. And in this healing process, which is often, as we said, triggered by embracing greater beliefs of abundance and alignment, that healing process goes hand in hand with what you manifest in the 3D world. Because as you let go and heal certain beliefs and you integrate yourself, that reflects. And then you see the reflection, and it gives you a little bit of a boost. I am doing this right. And then as you start thinking that, you're able to heal yourself even better. You're more motivated, inspired to, then even better circumstances reflect that are more aligned, more resonant, closer, even truly activating that which you want to experience. You start manifesting, and aligning with who you truly are, and it all becomes this big upward spiral. So in that sense, healing bit by bit is manifestation. That's the beauty, is that they're two sides of the same coin. So 2 more mainstream ideas to wrap up, just kind of refresher ideas. And those are to take your desire off a pedestal, and that is done by some of the methods we already spoke about, such as seeing yourself as literally that thing, sharing the same core essence. And then also just practically realizing that crazier things that have happened in the history of humankind, in all of the parallel realities, in all of the different dimensions, crazier things have happened than you aligning with your dream life and realizing that which lights you up, your desire. You can have it, you are worthy of it, and it's not something on top of a big mountaintop that you've got to climb and struggle up some arduous journey. It can be simple, it can be fun, it can be joyful, and it can be yours. And of course that helps you live in the end, and therefore also embrace more and more perspective of abundance. And in that process you'll be able to heal more, and then you'll be able to reflect better circumstances as you head down that timeline towards that which you seek. And of course as all of that happens, you're elevating your level of consciousness into your true self. And one final thing is to meditate every day, or do some kind of spiritual practice. It's my humble opinion that can really help you, especially if you're looking to quiet the mind, gain more control over the mind, tap into your inner essence, your inner I amness, your inner direct realization of the one infinite creator, more and more, is to enter into a daily rhythmic connection to it. And for the time being, even though it may not resonate with you later down the track, and you can drop it then, if it resonates with you now, go for that. And I found that it really helps charge up this entire process, keep you connected to your dream life, your true self, and take you off the wheel or the pendulum swing of ego as it bounces through attachment and desire and fear and lack. Alrighty, if you enjoyed this video, please like it, leave me a comment, and share it around. And also, if you ever want one-on-one coaching with me to talk about your spiritual journey, your awakening, or your manifestation journey, techniques, tips, alignment, guidance, and support, just head to my website below. The links are there, and I would love to have a session with you. Thank you very much.